Hi, my name is Saskia, and for my profitability assignment, I decided to do a video. So the first question is, where did you go? And as I've said before in my essays, the place that I am externing has a retreat, a catering business, and a restaurant. The retreat is an old building that was once a church and is now become a Buddhist temple, but really any religions can come, and they have done so many different things there. They do classes, they do meditations, just all of it. Um, then the catering business is also run by the same company, which is called Fresh Company, and that's who I work with. Then they also opened up a restaurant in Garrison called Dolly's, and it was opened in 2018. What is the mission of the site? The mission of the site is, I feel, as every chef always wants, is to create a safe place where people can enjoy food and they feel welcomed, and it's a place to create memories and just really be with your loved ones or whoever, really, and just really enjoy food that is healthy and nourishing for us and the body. How does the site achieve their mission? The site achieves their mission by creating new revenue and spreading the word around, allowing people to come and enjoy meals that is provided from the community. It's also really about just spreading word and just allowing anybody to come at any time. But also, Garrison is very close in community and it spreads around very quickly. So that's one thing about Garrison. And I think that's really how they achieve their site and their mission is through that. How does your site create and market a product? So the Garrison Institute is run by someone who is really well known within the community. He does great work, and I think because of that, it allows us to create and market a product really quickly, because being able to be in a community where you know so many people, it really allows you to be reached out to more people. It's kind of like the game telephone, where once one person knows, and they spread it, and then they spread it, and they spread it. So it's really about just organizing really great food and just being able to market it through, going on Instagram or telling other people, or doing it through TikTok, or being on different sites that allow you to be like, which restaurant is best for Garrison, or something like that, if that makes sense. So describe your work. How does your site create a dish, prep work, and deliver to the customers? So my site creates many different dishes, obviously. The idea for the retreat is that people will go onto a website before. So how it works is they go on a website, and then from that, part of the whole retreat is that you have to write about what kind of foods you can have and what kinds of foods you can't have based on that. So if we have 150 people and they all do the same website and they all fill out the form, then we know from that, having an idea of how many people are vegan and how many people have nut allergies, things like that. Oftentimes we don't have too many vegan people. It's mostly vegetarian or they are carnivores. We do have a higher rate of nut allergies, eggs, fish, soy, things like that. But that's basically general information and just general knowledge about anyone you serve. There's always going to be some kind of food allergy. So then based on that, creating a menu is pretty easy, because we have many different menus based on what people can and cannot have. And that allows us to create what we want. So once we have that idea, the chef will then order from the farms that he orders his produces from, and then knowing that there's 100 people, then we'll figure out how many pounds of carrots we'll need for that day, or how many pounds we'll need for that week. It's just a lot of prep work. Obviously, it's hard to know what they can and cannot eat and how much they will eat. Sometimes in our situations, we've had it where a lot of people will eat a lot of proteins, or some people won't eat any proteins. It just kind of depends on how many people come, and just if they're younger or they're older, based on it really changes every single day, and just knowing the people is really important. for the restaurant, it's a little bit different just because the menu doesn't change much. It's easier to know what is made, and so like the dishes are easier to know, and being able to deliver to customers is easier, and each step is just basically repetitive. It's going to be the same thing over and over again. So based on my observation, how does each step contribute to the overall quality of the produce, or product, I mean? So my observation is that, being able to create good quality is really important. Like I said before, we get a group from the retreat. We often have a list of how many people are coming based on that, and then from that information, we're able to get a broader understanding of how much food we need and what kind of things they will mostly eat. A lot of the stuff that we make, it differs, but it's all based on the same concept of just ensuring that everyone gets what they need and enjoying the food. I think it always changes, and that's the beauty of being a chef, is that you're able to create so many different things, and learning from your clients constantly is so important. Things like that. We've had situations where we've had older people, and we've noticed that older people don't tend to eat as much, and then younger people, they tend to eat more proteins and they tend to eat more just because they're younger and their metabolism is higher. Describe your work based on the experience that you've had as an extern and how your work has changed. I think as a Culinary Institute student, and always in the back of the mind that you are there because they need extra help, and based on where you go, they treat you differently. I'm very lucky that the place where I work is very, very sweet and very, very nice. But at the same time, I really wish that I got a chance to be challenged more. I've noticed that while working here, the work that I've done is very bare minimum. And I feel like it's not really challenging me as a chef. But at the same time, I think that's really taught me that for the rest of my life, I'm always going to, work in very high-end restaurants. And it allows me to really just take time for myself to really understand how I work in situations and how that can help me and how that can fail me in situations. So being in a situation where you're not doing as much work, it's a good thing and it's also a bad thing. I feel like my skills are not being used as much, and I feel like it's making me feel kind of losing my skills and my mobility. But as I've said, I'm going to be working in high-end restaurants after this, so I won't ever have to worry about this again. How have you grown professionally and personally? I think I've grown definitely personally because there's definitely different times when I was in a situation where I needed to be very professional. Oftentimes, a lot of the information that I've learned in the kitchens at school, I've also learned, I also use that on my extern, and I think oftentimes you really learn by doing. I've always said that since day one, which is it's so important to be always hands-on and just learning by doing, because that really kicks in, and that really, it kind of like, you kind of memorize everything, and it's so important. It's like, when you're a baby, you don't know how to walk, but over time, you do know how to walk, and then you're running, and then this and that. So it's just, a lot of it is just repetitive work, but also really knowing what you're doing and just being super hands-on is just super, super important. Also it's a lot about like knowing your limits. So it's just like, for yourself what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. And asking questions is so important, because I think if you ask questions, it not only allows you to rethink about what you're making, but I think it also helps the chef to know, like, hey, if this student is asking me a question, maybe it's because I didn't explain it the best of my abilities. Okay, so I have asked my supervisor, and the first one is, how does your business generate revenue? And we generate revenue through the food system we provide at the Garrison Institute, as well as the catering business that we do. What is the biggest revenue generator? At this time, it is the Garrison Institute, which is our biggest client. What is the biggest expense? Labor. What is their financial tool to measure the financial health of the business? So they use QuickBooks to generate reports, but they also use that to analyze, anyway, and evaluate. They also use Google Sheets to kind of help keep everything organized and simple. The following is describe profit and loss statement. A profit and loss statement, or also known as income statement, is a financial report that shows how much money a business has made and spent over a period amount of time. It can also help businesses to make profit, but also earning more or spending less or taking loss and things like that. The total sales is the full amount of money that a business earns by selling its products and or services that they are using before subtracting any cost or expenses. It can also be known as revenue. Total cost in sales is how much it costs a business to produce or buy a sale, and that also includes ingredients, materials, and any good directions of what happens through that sale. Gross profit, which is the amount of money a business has left after subtracting the total cost and sales from its total sales. It can also show how much money is made before for things like rent and utilities. So this can really help you. Let's see. So what have you learned about the profitability? So I've learned that it is not only about making money, but it's also covering. It's about just how the business works and its profitability and the cost of making a sale and things like that. It's also controlling cost increases, so keeping costs low, especially when costs are high. It's just really making sure that you're very on top of your financial statements and just really knowing what you are doing, things like that. So then let's see what else. So a profitable business can make itself, like making sure that you're paying your employees fairly, upgrading equipments when equipments are starting to die, things like that. It's about making money, but also make sure that you have a strong future. When a business spends it or spends too much, it helps improving operations and being able to upgrade equipment. It can also help the business pay their employees fairly and making sure that they make a good staff, creating a positive outspace and workspace. If you were in a position of making a business decision, what aspects of profitability would you use? What is the most important thing? I think that often comes with just knowing the labor cost and not analyzing. Oh my gosh, I can't say the word. Just making sure that the menus are good, keeping food and simple costs low to the proportion, not wasting as much, things like that. And just working together to strategize the best that you can possibly do and keeping your business upright and sustainable. What suggestions would you have from this business to help improve the long-term success? Making sure that you focus on a few key areas, making sure that you imply tighter control over food and not wasting as much, tracking your cost and just anything that you do that is relevant to your financial things. It could be the smallest things like buying an equipment, but then making sure that knowing that equipment isn't too expensive. Just anything really, like anything you do that you know that costs, you need to just make sure you have it out. Making sure they get customers' feedback, because that really helps based on how the menu is doing. So if you know that there's a specific menu item that doesn't sell so well, then you know that you won't do that in the future and that you can change it. What have you learned about yourself and your development based on experience? I think through this experience, I've definitely learned that you have a strong ability to think critically and about your business operation, but what it will take to be successful. I've become more aware of the importance of managing items and the loss of control, planning and profitability, and just how they all connect to a bigger picture. It's just really important to really understand where you're coming from, but also knowing that it's actually a lot tougher than you think it is, and that being able to keep a restaurant at these times is very, very hard. So I think being in a situation where they have three businesses going at once, and just how each business has their own way of income and loss and things like that, I think is so important. And I think at the very beginning of my career, I really wanted to have my own restaurant. But then after seeing this, I've noticed that it's become harder and harder, and it's just you need to have such an amazing community, and you need to have such amazing workers to be able to keep this up and things like that. So that's pretty much everything. Hopefully I didn't go too far and I didn't ramble. But yes, thank you so much.